Okay guys, so it is that time to update on everything we know about Spider-Man Homecoming and also look at these potential leaks that are floating out there online and assess just how accurate could these things be. As always, everything we talk about is usually kind of produced by internet hype, and a lot of these should be taken with a grain of salt. Except there are those instances where a lot of this stuff ends up being true because the people that are putting this out there are taking their best guess according to the leaks we've already had that have been confirmed and what the directors and actors have hinted at or said. So with that in mind, let's get into talking about Spider-Man Homecoming and what exactly is everything that's going to be happening in this movie. So first off, unlike its predecessors, which all seem to focus on a larger-than-life giant threat to pretty much the world that only Spider-Man can stop, apparently Spider-Man Homecoming has the lowest stakes in relation to the other MCU movies, and it's also a relatively low budget movie compared to the other ones. Now, I can see this being 100% true when you think about what they're saying here. Obviously this is a movie about a teenager in school. He's in high school. He's still just Spider-Man, he doesn't understand this bigger, broader world that he's grew up in. He doesn't know his place in the world yet. And when you place a movie in high school, you're kind of cementing that feel of a smaller scale movie. Everybody else is globetrotting. They're here and they're there, and Iron Man can fly to other countries and he can be internationally. Captain America can do the same thing, and he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and all this and that. And then you look at Spider-Man and he's in high school, pretty much like Ant-Man. He was a nobody thief, and it was a small-time scale job that happens in one suburb in San Francisco, and the big fight is literally a miniature fight in a child's room. And to that type of way, I could see what they're saying here, and that makes all the sense in the world. Now, next up it says the movie centers on Peter Parker struggling to balance his private life and superhero life. As Peter, he's trying to ask his longtime crush Liz Allen to homecoming dance, and fitting in is just not being that good. Now, while he's Spider-Man, he's trying to handle all the responsibilities that come with the great power, and of course the supervillain that showed up in his life, which is the Vulture. Now, this again makes a whole lot of sense. This is what we're expecting from the high school setting. One of the best parts of Spider-Man is the way they humanize him, almost more than any other big hero. When you think about all these characters that you read and love, Superman, for example, not many people can relate to Superman because none of us are aliens. I mean, you can if you're a foreigner in another land, and that's why I gripped onto Superman so early in my life when I came to America. But to me, Spider-Man was the thing where that helped me become me when I started reading Spider-Man and the movies came out. And Spider-Man is the most relatable character you have out there, especially when you're a teenager, because of the change he goes through, the metaphor for it, and all that. And I really hope that this is the movie that brings that to the forefront, because that's such an important aspect of Spider-Man. Asking a girl out, having all that trouble, being rejected, being shy, having to balance your homework and your life. And as many of you know, I hate how the last couple movies just try to age Peter Parker as quick as possible, so I'm hoping they don't do it in this. Next up, it says that Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, is a military scientist who creates a wingsuit using technology from the Avengers, aka the Chitauri, and the whole invasion and everything, and gets fired for it. But due to all the experimentation he was doing with this, like radiation and all that, he learns that he actually needs the suit he created to be able to maintain his life. So he eventually ends up stealing the thing and goes on a rampage trying to kill everybody he can and everybody involved, while also trying to find the cure, because that's what he needs to survive. Next up, it says that the Tinker is a minor villain and a former Stark Industries inventor who supplies crooks with cutting-edge technology and weaponry, and is forced to help the Vulture. He gives him weapons, and he also gives Shocker and his gang a few weapons, as they are the opening antagonists of the movie. So first off, let's touch upon the Vulture. Honestly, I think that makes a lot of sense if you say that he did kind of experiment on it and he got some sort of, radiation or alien sickness, and the only way he can battle it is this suit, thus kind of mirroring Iron Man, except this guy went insane because, well, he was fired and let go and no one appreciated what he was doing, so he wants to exact revenge on them. So they're kind of using elements of what Kevin Feige did with the Green Goblin in the original first Spider-Man movie. Now, the Tinkerer being a minor villain, and he's the one that supplies Shocker and the goons with everything, and working for Tony Stark and then was fired, I could see this one happening. That seems like a good way to once again make it a more personal story that Tony Stark, due to the Accords, cannot interfere with. But he's like, yeah, Peter, I know this guy, sorry he's bothering you or causing you trouble, but guess what, you're not really on the Accords, and so here you go, take care of my problem for me. I think you should be able to, and here's this new tech I upgraded for you so you can stop him. Now it says that Zendaya is actually playing Mary Jane, but this was a late addition to the script and it was part of rewrites. She was originally going to be playing Michelle, an original character, and it says that she's Peter's classmate who had a crush on him. They end up going to homecoming together, and just like Peter, she's actually attending this school due to a scholarship, and she will also be the main love interest in the movies going forward. So this is a rather interesting one. You know, I'm okay with Zendaya playing Mary Jane and everything. I've talked about that in depth, why I'm okay with it. I don't really care, but when we get to it, what worries me is the fact that they say she was playing a different character and then she was retrofitted to be Mary Jane. Now, that can be taken as two different ways. Either one, she was really phenomenal and they loved her acting. They're like, okay, we can't make you this Michelle character because people are going to fall in love with what you're doing here. And then when we eventually do get to Mary Jane, people won't like her as much if he ends up turning you down. It's a, you know, it's a typical young adult style script writing. So maybe that's why they did it. But my bigger worry is that the way they had it, if that's the fact, and they were doing some serious rewriting very late in the movie as they were already shooting. We saw that she didn't have the red hair and everything, so I guess we'll find out when it comes out. Now, next up, another change. They say that Flash Thompson was originally going to be another original character called Manuel, but he was made into Flash Thompson during the same rewrites where they turned Michelle into MJ. Once again, I'm okay with this. Flash Thompson never really struck me as anybody too important due to his skin color, ethnicity, or anything like that, and it all remains to be seen how he's portrayed. If he's still a bully and cocky and all this, then I am 100% okay with that. If they change his entire character and just he's Flash in name only, then that really sucks. Now, this next one is very important. There is no J. Jonah Jameson or the Daily Bugle in the movie, so that kind of bums me out. It sucks because if this is true, you know, it takes away a huge part of Peter's life. But maybe at this stage in his life, Peter isn't looking for a job or anything like that, and we just don't need to investigate that yet. Maybe he will, you know, the next year we catch up with him in school, or 2 years down the road whenever we catch up with Peter. So I'm okay with it on one end, but on the other, it's like the Daily Bugle is so iconic in the Marvel Universe, it kind of feels cheap not to have it. It also says that Tony Stark's role in the movie is pretty minor, and he doesn't appear as Iron Man. He actually gives Peter some life advice, you know, and when it looks like you can't deal with your first supervillain, when he needs to give him tips and everything like that. So it's another thing, you definitely don't want to take away from, you know, Peter Parker himself. So if you toss Iron Man in there and he's suiting up and everything, that takes away from the character of the movie. But now on the other hand, you kind of want to sell Iron Man, and this is officially the MCU, and show them kind of hanging out together. So maybe I could probably see this being true, as, you know, Iron Man would have to get this authenticated and be like, oh, I'm telling you right now, there's this Vulture guy in New York. And they're like, okay, well, let's make sure this is authentic. And then he sits back, and like 3 weeks go by, they're like, okay, so the Accords, right? You go help this kid. So I could definitely see this being true. And last up, it says that Stark mentions that he's keeping the Accords off of Peter Parker, mainly due to the fact that he has only been dealing with minor street crimes. But if this goes on any further and he branches into more supervillains, he won't be able to protect them from the Accords for much longer. So that is everything, and honestly, on the last one, I think that makes a lot of sense. As long as you're a smaller time street level guy, Tony's not coming after you with the Accords, or that's exactly why he hasn't showed up for Punisher or Jessica Jones or Daredevil or anybody else, because they are small time. But once you expand out there into supervillainy, well, then you kind of got to take note because you're destroying half a city most likely. So honestly, I think a lot of stuff in here is true, and we can kind of just gather that info from what we know so far, and I'm pretty pleased with it if this is all true. It sounds like a pretty damn good, filled out movie. Hey guys, Armin here, just reminding you that this video was made possible thanks to patrons. If you guys are interested in supporting us and making sure we keep the lights on, check out our Patreon where you can join other fans in supporting the CBC delivering content you guys have come to love and expect. And if you can't do that, give us a like and a subscribe. That goes a long way too.